And one reason that people have been fleeing some of these other places is because crime throughout this country is totally out of control in these leftist jurisdictions. I mean, they've really attacked law enforcement over the last many years, slashing funding for law enforcement, saying they're going to defund. You know, they say they want to take money from police and give it to, like, social services. Well, you know, if somebody comes and is, like, robbing your house, you're going to call a social worker to help you if you need help? Well, actually, here, you probably just take care of it yourself. You wouldn't even need to call anyone, but, you know. That's what we said. You know, after Hurricane Ian hit down in South Florida, we said, you know, do not loot in Florida. Do not do it. And, you know, we'll hold you accountable, you know, with the law, but I think you should be worried even more than that. You go into someone's place, a private residence, you never know what's lurking behind that door, and it may be a very, very bad afternoon for you if you try to do that. But we have stood for law enforcement. We are very tough on crime. You're not going to see us releasing criminals back on the street like they do in New York or like they do in some of these other places. Not going to happen. And we also see, you know, these prosecutors in places like Los Angeles and San Francisco, they get elected because they get funding, massive funding, by people like George Soros. And they put them in, and they basically have very radical views about how crime should be approached. And what they decide to do, they can't ever get these changes through the legislature because they're insane. So they basically just don't enforce the laws that they disagree with. So they make themselves a law unto themselves, and then basically the inmates run the asylum in the community. They steal, they assault, they do all these different things. So people haven't felt safe, and it's absolutely contributed to a mass exodus out of some of these places. We don't tolerate that in Florida. I mean, we ensure our prosecutors follow the law. We had a fellow down in Tampa that thought he was above the law, and we took action, and we got him out, and we'll make sure to continue to do that if people aren't meeting their obligations under the Constitution. You know, another important component of rule of law is having a secure southern border. And what we've seen is, you know, you have elites in our country, you have media, you know, they haven't cared about millions and millions of people coming across the border illegally since Biden's been president. The cartels are absolutely making a fortune eating our lunch at the border. They don't care about that. They don't care about the record amount of fentanyl that's coming into our country. It's killing people in communities all across the United States of America in record numbers. They don't care about that. They don't care about criminal aliens getting across the border and then victimizing Americans. You know, we had a sheriff's deputy in Pinellas County killed by a twice-deported criminal alien who got across Biden's border 6 months ago. And you think about that, and that was a preventable death if you just had control of the border. So they don't care about any of that. They only care when you start seeing illegal aliens show up in Washington, D.C., New York, and Martha's Vineyard. And so, you know, you have very elite enclave, very wealthy. They say they're sanctuary jurisdiction. They actually have a social services office saying everyone's welcome, all refugees come. They said we'll take people publicly. They've said that. And so, you know, you have like 50 that fly in. And what did they do? They deported them the next day. And it just shows you the elites in our country, they want to impose policies on you, but they do not want to have to live under the consequences of those policies themselves. And we've done more. I've had people at the border help in Texas. We've had strike forces. We've interdicted drugs and human smuggling. We've done a lot in Florida as well. You know, but at the end of the day, Martha's Vineyard put this issue on the map like nothing that's ever been done. And so, now it's something people are talking about. And, I've told Neil Dunn this, but I think Republicans, are going to win majorities in the House and Senate in November, which is good. But they got to do something with the majorities. And what I would say is, the Congress controls the purse strings. They don't have to fund anything that Biden wants if they don't want to. And so Biden needs them to just to run the government, basically. And I would just say, you control the purse strings. Don't be giving Biden money unless we get Remain in Mexico, the wall, and all of that. Make sure, use your leverage, and let's move the ball here, because what's going on now doesn't work. So we're going to be counting on these guys to really stand strong and to use their power to be able to get some results at the border. But we're really frustrated with what we've seen. The thing is like sometimes things happen when you're in office. You just got to deal with it. This is a crisis that he created by opening the border in the first place. And he thought no one would notice because the media protects him. But once you bring it to their front doorstep, then they no longer can ignore it. And so that's why we got to keep the pressure on.